Hey guys, Enzo from Home Theatre Engineering. This is probably the first time that we've been this intimate. It's quite enjoyable. I'm very close. You can see all my grey hairs. But we are little message for you. So there's been some stuff lately about us releasing content. And as much as we'd love to release content as often and more often than what we'd like, we do run two businesses. So with Home Theatre Engineering being a full-time thing for us, so is Douglas Hi-Fi. And Douglas Hi-Fi is taking up a bit of time at the moment because it is a retail space. One of our guys is away on leave, and it has grown quite a bit in the 7 or 8 months that we've had it, to the point where we've actually outgrown the space. So what you're about to watch is actually a room tour that we did about 4 or 5 weeks ago of our Home Theatre Engineering demo room, which lived within Douglas Hi-Fi. Since then, unfortunately, we've made the decision to rip that out and give that space to Douglas, as Douglas does need more rooms and more demo rooms. Douglas has grown to a point where we just need it, and unfortunately, a decision had to be made. What that does mean for Home Theatre Engineering, though, is that we are going to create a bigger and better space with dedicated offices, recording studio, which means we'll be able to bring you more content, and a couple bigger and better demo rooms. So we're in the process of doing that. So watch the video, have a look at what we did have in our room. It gives you an idea of what we do and what we're capable of. Any questions or comment, like, subscribe, hit the little notification. The video is still going to be very informative to show you kind of what we do on the scale of what we do and the brands that we work close with. So sit down, have a cup of coffee, watch the video, and by all means, send us a comment or a message, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Enjoy. Hey guys, Enzo here from Home Theatre Engineering. Today, we are at our showroom in Perth at Douglas Hi-Fi. For those of you that know, back in December, January, we took over a little business called Douglas Hi-Fi, and in that space, we have our Home Theatre Engineering demo room. Now today we're going to go really deep in that room, as a lot of people have been asking. Can we have a bit of a tour and a bit of an idea of what's in there, why you've done certain things, why you've done it. I got Andrew behind the camera today because he's always in videos, and I thought it's about time maybe I do one. He's a bit of a camera hog,
Hi,
aren't you,
folks.
Andrew? That's not true. Andrew is the knowledge behind a lot of this, and we tend to share as much as we can. So today is going to be a little bit like two enthusiasts, not in cars, not having coffee, just talking about the demo room. So come through, let's take a sneak peek. So the thing about this room was that this room was already here. So we kind of had to work with the dimensions in the space that we had. Now this room was 6.5 meters by 5.2. So it's a pretty common size. The width is pretty common. The length, maybe not so much, but at the end of the day, it's quite manageable. The thing about this space, though, and what I like about it, it gives a sense of a realism in relation to someone's own home and what a space like that would actually feel. The moment you walk in, it transports you, and you kind of already take ownership and kind of get that sense of, I can have this in my place. This is a bit different. So for those that know and been following us, what we do is quite, calculated and measured and very precise. And what I mean by that is that this room was started essentially as a room design. And we worked out that with the sweet spot, and we always pick a suite, and we said that this would be our little sweet spot, the front row. Where does everything go around that space? And where does everything get positioned, and how do we calculate everything else? And what we did is we come up with a design that essentially could show off a different system to the other places in Perth that had far more channels, far more equipment, and far more power. And that's what we did. Behind each panel, and as you can see, we have some lovely red wine acoustic panels, which we make ourselves. They are made here in WA, essentially WA proud. Behind each panel, obviously each panel has a purpose. There's a combination of diffusion and absorption in our panels, but each panel literally in this room, so we've got 8 panels, has a speaker. And what speaker is that, you ask? That is a Priscilla P5V. P5V is V for vertical. That's what we started off with. And a lot of people would have seen our room was a little bit red and blue 6 months ago. We've made some tweaks, And the room now has Priscilla P6Vs. And the difference is that the P6 has an additional driver and ultimately, more oomph, more power. It's a different housing altogether. It's a wider and taller housing as well. So why do we go for Priscilla P6s and P5s originally? Very simple. The dynamic range, the detail, the sensitivity versus the power, what we were experiencing. We were kind of sick of listening to speakers and just not really hearing anything, especially from surrounds and Atmos. And for us, we found that it worked. It worked very well, and it worked even better once we tweaked it and made some changes. So behind every panel, again, there's 8 speakers here. Is a Priscilla P6 at the moment, and used to be a Priscilla P5V. So we thought we'd up the ante a little bit. In the ceiling, we have Priscilla's P5, more a traditional bookshelf style speaker. And we use those as opposed to, I guess, in-ceiling speakers, because with the articulated bracket, it gives us a lot more flexibility in relation to the angles and stuff that we can actually manipulate to point to the sweet spot. So along with those, let's talk about the fronts, more importantly. So at the front, when we first started, we had P8s, which they were very impressive. And, they sit around the $4,500 mark, and are essentially a tweeter and a driver in a very wide configuration. And when we made changes, I think it was around March, kind of just as COVID hit, we said, well, if we're ordering new speakers, we might as well just order new fronts, and kind of let's go take it up a notch. So we had P8s with P5s before. Now we've got P28 with P6s. All right, so they kind of complement each other in that kind of suggestive pattern. The P28s are essentially very similar to a P8, but they've got a dual driver with a actual tweeter in the middle. And again, we'll put some links at the bottom. Very, very accurate, very, very detailed speaker with a hell of punch. And one of my favorites, to be honest, as well. Next, we'll turn the camera around. In the back, obviously, as you can see, we've got some diffusion right at the back of the room, which Andrew will go down. Now, those are Acoustic DC2 Skyline diffusion panels, and obviously you can see why they're called Skyline. They kind of resemble a city skyline. Diffusion, for the idiot's guide, is very simple. It just scatters the sound. In relation to the subwoofers, you can see at the bottom there, we have a very big Rel Predator 1508. Now the Rel Predator, we actually have 4 of those in this room, and they are calculated and measured to know exactly where they're meant to be. The Rel Predator is a closed box, so it is sealed. It is front firing, as you can tell, with some awesome carbon fiber, or carbon glass, as they say. It's 15-inch, hence the 1508. It is 800 watts at 1200 watt peak, with a Class D power amplifier. I think the most common question is how low does it go? The low frequency response, or extension, I should say. And I think it's at -6 dB. And the dimensions on this, and this is one thing a lot of people kind of go, they're quite big when they see them online. They're actually not. And they fit quite well. They're 500 by 500 essentially. But I tell you what, we've measured a lot of subs in our time, and it's probably fair to say that when we pulled these out and measured them, they were very impressive. So again, there's 4 of those in here. 1 in this corner, 1 in the opposite corner. On the other side, Andrew's going past some row 1 chairs that we'll talk about in a second. And the other 2 are hidden behind our baffle wall, pretty much about 300 or 400 mil in either side. Okay. Obviously, our weapon of choice for furniture is row 1. We do a lot of row 1s. They're very popular. They're very comfortable. We have in the back row, we have some row 1 ambassadors. That is their, let's say, flagship product. It's a very simple, I guess, modern, elegant product. It does have, obviously, their cup holders. It's got the light inside, the light underneath as well. You can block Some people always touch the buttons by mistake during a film, like so. They are very quiet and ever so comfortable. Front row, we've got a combination. Well, we've got the caramels, which are more their kind of entry level range, just to show people ultimately, what the range does and a different look. These are probably more like a traditional kind of contemporary style chair, I guess. Ironically, has a few features more than the Ambassadors, which are the top of the range. But I guess with the Ambassadors, they were designed to be quite streamlined and quite simple. I think the most popular thing is probably the trays, which hides the annoying blue light that is in these chairs, which we keep asking them to resolve, and I think they will come the end of the year. And on top of that, we have obviously control automation. A lot of people have asked us, what do we use? Now, there's no denying the fact that Control 4 has taken the market by storm over the last couple of years. Very reliable, very easy, very, very user friendly, and ultimately works flawlessly with essentially a lot of the products that we put in all our cinemas, from Barcos to Trinovs to Storms to Kaleidoscapes to pretty much anything. Neo remote, I prefer the old school remote, which had a lot more buttons. It's a great remote. I think the power button's probably located in a bit of a weird spot, a bit too close to all the other buttons. We might see a change in that possibly in the future, who knows. But still a fantastic product. So, I guess the big question is image. Everyone's like, oh, image. You don't really show us enough of your screens. And I guess one of the reasons, and Andrew tends to always say this as well, it's very hard to capture what we see with our eyes, what's on the screen. This is a very impressive picture out of a box, essentially. We haven't actually calibrated this, and we might just turn the lights down a little bit, and I might even turn the lights around the room down for a second, just to give you a sense of the size of the screen. So I'm a big guy, but this is a big screen. So this is a 4 meter wide perforated Subwoofers screen, okay, from our friends at Cogworks. The reason we opted for perforated, I mean, let's be realistic, it's all they had in stock at the time. If your speakers are really, really close to the screen, then you would use a woven material. Here we've got 550 mil, I think it is, from the screen to the speaker. So there's plenty of space. So we didn't really need to use a woven product anyway. But in a lot of homes where space is ultimately a restriction, we probably do 90% of woven material, to be fair. So this is, again, a 1.2 gain screen. It is 4 meters wide. It's around 180 inches from memory. And that is being essentially lit up, blinding me, by a Barco Boulder cinemascope. Now with a Barco Boulder, I'll let Andrew just take the image so you can actually get a sense of as much picture quality as possible. So Barco Boulders, Barco, a lot of people go, oh, but I've never heard of Barco, and I've never ultimately even seen one in a demo room. And chances are it's probably because you haven't. And the reason being is that they are a very serious weapon. And by that I mean Barco is essentially a commercial projector. They sit in a commercial space. A lot of their projectors are probably over $200,000 in that space. So what they've done is about 2 years ago, from memory, and I know Shilkin will probably correct me or give me a thumbs up, they created Barco Residential, and that was a space that was designed to cater to this demand of luxury cinemas and people that wanted the very best in projection for home. Now, the Barco Boulder retails around the $70,000 to $80,000, depending on, I guess, how you spec it, depending on color wheel. It's a very, it's a bit like ordering a sports car, a luxury sports car. You get to choose all the options, and then they send it to you. It's around 5,000 lumens, so it's a very bright projector, and obviously that brightness does dull down a little bit once Andrew's whipped out his calibration equipment. I went blank there for a second. And done his ISF calibration on it. As everyone knows, HDR is a complicated beast, and everything is very calculated in relation to distance and the throw with the lumens of a projector and hitting 40-foot lamberts. So, you know, it is difficult, and even sometimes in very expensive cinemas that we've built, 100 grand plus, sometimes we get there just. Back at the front, we'll head to the front of the room and we'll go through what's actually there. We might turn these lights back on as well. I'll open these doors. So, front of the room, a wall that has essentially hiding everything behind it, let's put it bluntly, and essentially has speakers behind a screen, about 550 deep, can be anywhere up to essentially 350 if you really want to minimize it, and then treated behind the screen with either MDF or absorption material to create that sense of baffle and, you know, shoot the sound forward. In that lovely rack that Andrew's taking a image of at the moment, we have 3 Anthem M1s at the bottom, monoblocks, and you guessed it, that is running LCR, left, center, right. Those monoblocks deliver an astonishing 1,000 watts into 8 ohms and double down to 2,000 watts, 2,000 people at 4 ohm, and a crazy 2,300 at 2 ohms. So they do run load independent into either 120 volt, which doesn't matter too much here, or 240. They do have a proprietary Class D amplifier topology, I think is the word. Andrew, is that correct? Yep. With power factor correction circuitry. They do have also built-in line conditioning that cleans the signal going in and out, and some internal cooling. Now I'm going to shut up now, and you guys are going to have a listen to these guys. Can't hear anything. They are deadly quiet. They're about 4.7 centimeters by 49 centimeters by 47.6, and they are heavy. They're about 9 to 10 kilos each. They're not cheap, but you know, at the end of the day, power isn't, and they retail at about the 5,300, 400 mark in a retail space. So we have 3 of those. Above that is a Storm processor, which Andrew's done, or we both have done a video recently about. We use this room to kind of show off what the Storm and the Trinov can do. They're 2 very different products, and we've made it so we're able to kind of take one out, take the other one in, and show people what each machine does. It is a 24-channel processor, you know, again, designed to really dig deep in relation to what can be done in room correction, what can be done in that atmospheric space, what can be done with all those channels. And it is an impressive machine, same as the Trinov. They both, ironically, are French, and they both have a purpose in the market at around the same price, being, you know, between that $25,000 and $30,000 mark. So some serious equipment. Above that, we have the control 4 brains, I guess, of the unit. That one there, normally in a room we would use like an EA1, which is a smaller version. That one there from memory is an EA3, and that was there so we can run the rest of the shop off it as well. So always taking into consideration that if you are going to be adding, you know, I guess a lot more features in the future to the rest of the house, maybe get your foundations right by getting an EA3, which allows you to have a lot more add-ons and just a lot more room flexibility in the future. Now, excuse the mess because we do use this room as R&D, I'd like to call it. You are seeing at the moment Anthem again. So we have opted to go with Anthem. We do find that Anthem does give us, I like to explain it, like a warm hug. It's a very warm sound, it's a very detailed sound, and it is a very reliable sound. And in relation to those, they are 3 5-channel MCA 525s. They're a multi-channel amp, 5 by 225 watts at 8 ohm. They've got XLR and RCAs, and a modular amp design. So again, value for money, with each one is around the 5299, very similar to 1M1 ultimately. So we've got 3 of those running, obviously our surrounds, our rears, and our Atmos as well. Alright, we do have a power filter which is tucked away at the back, which we can't get to at the moment. Again, we've just recently mucked around with this room. So we've got a Thor PS10 in there, which is a power filter / conditioner. We're going to be making a video about that topic, I guess, very soon. And going through the pros and cons and what's really out there and what really works. I guess I don't think I've missed anything. A few people have asked about our LED strip lighting. I'll turn that back on. This is what we call a Life X, I think they're stripe from memory. And basically they come in a pack of 3 of the actual connectors and a couple of corners. And you can essentially connect them up and do patterns, do different colors. It can pulse, it can go to the music. It's a pretty cool product. We wanted something a little bit different because we've forever seen rooms that have LEDs behind panels and lights in the ceiling. So this was just something, again, a bit different. Our player at the moment is actually on loan, but it is a Panasonic UB9000. Everyone knows that that's the kind of the flagship player that everyone uses at the moment. Along with like a Kodi, which is here just to play our own content that we put on there. And of course we've got, we did have a Kaleidoscope type product, which is actually no longer available in Australia, for those that are wondering. I've been asked about that recently. I think that is, in a nutshell, pretty much everything. I'm sure there'll be comments, there'll be questions, there'll be opinions. Please fire away down the bottom. We do our best to look at and comment on everything. It is very hard sometimes because we're very busy, obviously, running an everyday business as well. But, we'll do our best to ultimately touch on those. I can't think of anything else at the moment. But, yeah, look, we'll endeavour to probably comment and maybe do a follow-up video to the questions that people have left, and leave a bit of a kind of a Q&A on that room design room tour, and a link to the products that are in there and the other videos that we've done on the products that are in here. I think that's about it. Andrew, all good? Excellent. All right, so guys, thank you very much. It was just a quick video tour, just to kind of show you what we've got in here and a bit more in detail of what's hidden in the room, because everything's kind of hidden. But again, please subscribe, hit the little bell to get your notifications, tell your friends, tell your family, and I'm sure that we'll see you next week with our following video, and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for allowing us into your home, and we'll see you soon.